If nothing changed in your life over the next 5 years, would you still be happy? Well, my guest today believes that this question is actually your wake up call. I want to tell you a little bit about my guest today. His name is S.A.D.O.K Ben-Khelifa. And S.A.D.O.K, I met him when I was attending actually a speakers forum, I guess you would say, with none other than Les Brown. Les was there along with about, I guess, 9 other speakers. And I heard S.A.D.O.K speak and I thought what he had to say was so relevant and so true. And it really hit home that I thought you, my audience, would absolutely love it. So let me tell you a little bit about S.A.D.O.K. So he spent over 20 years building a successful career in both the tech and the financial industries. And he reached a professional success that, well, people work their whole lives to achieve that kind of success. But along the way, while he was working, he noticed that with all of the achievements he was making, something really was missing. So instead of just walking away from everything that he had built, he made the decision to figure out a better way to work and a better way to live. So for almost the past decade, he became a student of the most effective strategies for energy, focus, and sustainable performance. And today he is the founder of the S.A.D.O.K System, and he's a keynote speaker. He's an author of the book called Small Moves, Big Momentum. And he's also the co-author with Les Brown in Unleash Your Greatness. And he's got some stories in there. He's got some great stories. So without further ado, I would love to be able to introduce S.A.D.O.K to you, but let me not forget, he offers workshops and like I said, he's a speaker and he shares practical tools to help you reset and refocus. So welcome, S.A.D.O.K, to Success Through Connections.
Thank you very much, Zelda. It's an absolute pleasure being here. And thank you for your ongoing support and being at the Unleash Your Greatness event. Can I just say that you being part of the audience and the whole audience, what an amazing time that was. And even as a speaker, it was probably one of my favorite speaking gigs, I'll be honest with you.
I believe.
Simply because of the energy of the audience.
Yeah. It was
to learn. It was wonderful. Even afterwards, and meeting everybody was wonderful.
You feed off of the audience. Absolutely.
Absolutely. 100%.
And you had just such a great story about your life and how you channeled this thought, which brings me to, it's like you say, I mean, I didn't make it up. You said, if nothing changed in your life in the next 5 years, would you be happy? So what inspired that? And what was the shift like for you?
So I've never said this out loud before, but I was about 2 weeks away from just throwing in the towel, just quitting my job. Didn't have a plan, didn't have another job lined up. That's how frustrated I was. We only had a couple of months worth of savings and I was just about done. And then one evening, I happened to come across the audiobook 4 Stages to Greatness by Les Brown. He talks about self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-fulfillment, and self-reliance. And I remember sitting there that whole night. It's about 4 hours and I consumed the whole thing. And then I stopped and I said, okay, it's time to take action. There's no way I can do this. There's no way I now have some tools in my toolkit to prevent me from making such a massive mistake for my family. I had a young family at the time. My son just turned 2 and, we were talking about
throw in the towel.
Yeah, I was just ready to just give it all up. We just bought our new place. It was in the middle of COVID and who knows about jobs and all kinds of stuff. So I was utterly
had no plan.
I just couldn't take it anymore. I was just so frustrated.
Okay.
But then when I started to follow those steps, and it always starts with self-awareness, I realized that the problem wasn't my job. It wasn't me necessarily, but it was the strategies that I used to get through day-to-day activities. And sadly, around that time, a friend of mine in his 30s had passed away from a heart condition or a heart attack, let's say a heart attack. And in your 30s, that's uncalled for unless you've had a history of some illness or drugs. And he didn't have either. It was all stress, compounded stress, and the stress that he put on himself. And he and I got along really well because we put in a lot of work all the time. And it was just pull up your socks and work. We were that type of people. And so Whenever we faced a challenge, we acted like we were in our 20s,
That
single,
was like a wake up
with all
call.
the energy. Oh
Yeah.
my God, that was a second wake up call. And I
Signs were
decided,
coming up everywhere, weren't
oh,
they?
you know what? When you are ready for it, the universe has a way of giving you what you need. And I needed those signs because I didn't want to end up, one, putting my family through a bad situation. And so
Now, were
just
you
giving up.
working for someone else?
Yes, I was working in the corporate world at this time. Oh
Okay.
yeah. Didn't start the S.A.D.O.K system at this point. This was the catalyst that got me started along the path of discovery first,
So did you
before it
leave,
even became that.
so did you leave that company?
I did not.
You
I
did.
actually started understanding. So when I did the self-awareness assessment, let's call it, and I started to look at what was truly happening, I realized that everyday events were just draining my energy to the point of frustration and to the point of I was mishandling things. Again, I didn't feel like I was a problem. It was just my strategies were not the right strategies. Simple things. How to respond to somebody who, I don't know, in a meeting says something embarrassing or tries to trip you up, or little things like that. But little things like that, not dealt with properly, compound and just suck your energy. And so when you have no energy left by 11 a.m., then you don't know how to conduct the rest of your day. And then even going to bed just with all those things ruminating in your brain, not even getting a proper sleep and waking up with your heart pounding. Anyhow, all that to say, I realized there's got to be a better way to live. I mean, there's very successful people out there. It's time to start implementing what I learned. This was also at a time where I love to consume books and knowledge, but never did anything with it. And my library is pretty impressive by most standards. But all the books that I had read, I never really implemented. I thought you would just learn it all through osmosis. And it's funny because Les talks about that in that 4 stages to greatness.
Another sign.
Absolutely. I mean, when you start opening yourself up, right? Or you start, when you put yourself in the crosshairs of those signs, the universe has a way of bringing those to the forefront. I mean, they're always there. It's just, are you ready to hear that or not? Which is another component that
I love that. They're
later.
always there, but are you ready to hear it? Ooh, that's good.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I really started little. Like if I got triggered, which, you know, I was never an angry person, but I found myself constantly being more and more frustrated, more and more snapping back at people and burning bridges at work in the corporate world. And I figured this is not the way to do it, not only for my career, but more importantly for my health and the health of my family and my relationships. And so I started to work on my emotional regulation. And throughout that, because I'm an analytical person, I actually documented these things. Like, here's what worked. Here's what didn't. Here's what, and, you know, little things that you would find online or listen to a podcast or watch a video. I'd take note of these things, experiment with them, cross them off, or give a little bit of a check mark. And over time, I started to build that toolkit. And by toolkit, I mean my own strategies on how to deal with certain things.
And trying to figure it out.
I was trying to figure it out. And as I started to get out of that, I guess, overwhelming time of my life, that overwhelming season of my life, I'm trying to use proper words here. But
you don't have to.
yeah, that really crappy time of my life and I was really, in the clinical sense, burnt out, not like tired or exhausted, even physical reactions to things that didn't even exist out here in reality, but existed up here. As I started to dig myself out and started to become more aware of my surroundings and started to deal with things a little bit better with tools that I'd learned, I started to notice it on other people's faces. I started to see my friends, my families, my colleagues. Now, when you're in the weeds, nothing is apparent. Like there's no spotlight that's shining on things. When you start to remove yourself from that and you get up on the balcony and you're looking down, you start to realize there's other people that are in pain and they're suffering the same way. And I always said, I said the phrase, I remember, and I still say it now, there's no reason to live a hell on earth for things that we can control. And by that, you know, to a certain extent, to control our emotions, to control how we respond to things, to control how our day is, how we sleep, and things like that, the
Right.
distractions that come into our lives
How
and
you
what we get
react to
into.
them. Yeah. It's how you react.
All of those things. And as I started to see that, I was like, oh man, hey, why don't I pull some people aside and I'll tell them that? And I love to teach. I love to share. I love whatever. If something worked for me, I would be the first one to shout it out from the top of the roof and try to help others. But I found very quickly that people were not in a stage to receive that information. And then the crazy thing was, I started to see myself in that. And when you start to get clarity back, you start to reflect on how your life was. And I remember being that, when people offered me that advice, I wasn't ready for it. So I'd nod and yeah, I already know that. Thank you very much in my mind. Yeah, you already know that. But politely, oh, this is great. Thanks a lot. I took it as if somebody was giving me unsolicited advice.
Put it
Get
on
out
the
of here,
spot.
armchair advisor. Get out of here, armchair advisor. I don't need your advice.
Mhm.
And so I realized very quickly that I was starting to become that armchair advisor that I did not need at the time. And that's what led me to start documenting things and keeping track of it and figuring out that maybe I should write a book about this, not only for me, but as a legacy for my family, for my kids, so that they don't have to start from scratch like I did. And then maybe we'll meet them just like things met me at the time of their life when they need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because people don't always listen, especially to their own parents. They want to. I'm sorry to tell you that, but
No, I
they
know.
learn. They want to learn on their own, and as much as you want to help them so they don't make the same mistakes or make mistakes, they got to make mistakes because that's where the learning comes from the mistake.
I always told myself that when my dad would give me the lecture. Dad, I just need to figure it out for my own when I was comfortable enough and then brave enough to respond back to that.
Yeah.
But that's where that analyze, focus, and execute actually comes from. So later in life, I realized this was something that my dad always said to us when we were growing up. And I didn't appreciate it until I started figuring out, oh, maybe I should listen to those to those words.
Listen to my dad.
Oh, I wish I'd listened to him sooner, but you know what?
I totally
Again.
understand. I can relate. I can relate. So
Yeah.
one of the things I wanted to ask you about was, you're trying to figure it out. So did you stay with this job?
Yeah, and eventually we parted ways about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And yeah, and that was the sign that I wanted to get into this career, which is the speaking career.
Okay.
I mean,
And
for
starting
20
on
years.
owning your
Yeah,
own
and
company.
starting exactly. And it was something that I dreamed about for God. I remember being at a conference about 2 decades ago. Yeah, 21 years ago in that range. And it was a tech conference. And I remember how amazing this one speaker just moved around and spoke and just it didn't look rehearsed. It just felt natural. She didn't stumble on her words, everything. I couldn't tell you her name and I couldn't tell you the
I
topic.
can
All I
relate.
could remember was the feeling that I felt
Yes.
when I was watching
I
this
want to
person
do
just,
that.
and
Yeah.
I said, I am going to do that one day. And then I kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. But now that I had a little bit more time, I decided this is the career path for me. And I joined 2 Toastmasters clubs and I practiced twice a week in the presence of my Toastmasters clubs. I practiced talking to myself, talking to the couch, talking to the dog,
You talk to the mirror.
the steering wheel,
Yeah.
whatever. The best conversations you'll have, Les Brown says, is the conversations you have with yourself.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
it's, yeah. And
I can totally relate to this story.
yeah. And one thing led to another. And I started speaking. I had more confidence communicating. I was the master of ums and ahs.
I want to back up for a second.
Yeah.
So when you were ready to take the leap, how did that feel for you? Were you a little nervous? There's no safety net when you start your own company. So how was that for you? Jumping off the corporate ladder to start your own thing. How was that? How did you
Okay.
prepare yourself for that? Because I know when I heard you speak, you talk about analyze, but don't analyze too much. And then you got to go out there and execute. Let's talk about that for just a moment.
Yeah.
People are out there, they work for the man, I call it. You're building somebody else's dream. You're not building your own dream. How do you get to that point where you go, okay, I still have to feed my family here, but I really want to do this. This is where my heart is and my passion. How did you go from corporate security, as much as you can get in security in corporate America?
Mhm.
No offense to anybody who's working to corporate America, but I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. So how did that feel and work for you? That jump, that leap.
Yeah. So it was a couple of years in the works, let's say. And I started
Side
preparing.
gig, like a side.
Well, no, not even that. It was more so pay down debt, start getting ready with the finances, the things that caused me to stay up in the middle of the night, and made sure to have a little bit of a cushion. And as if the universe was speaking to me, was able to negotiate a pretty good severance, let's say. And so that also helped to a degree. But I was already ready. And I remember the day that it took place, it was raining outside. Now, I told you earlier that we own a small farm and my wife is a farmer. And it was raining outside. And I remember hanging up when the day where we parted ways came. And I just put on some raggedy old clothes and I went and I started picking weeds in the rain. And because it felt like the first time in my life that I had control over my destiny, it was very joyous, let's say. And I wasn't scared because I spent the last couple of years preparing, and it didn't come as a shock. It didn't come as a surprise for either anybody. It was the path that I laid out for myself. And it took self-awareness. It took some acceptance that this was the path that I was going to go on. And also it took the focus and execution. And so it wasn't, because it was already in the plans and I'd already set myself up for it, it was fine. And I got to tell you, I haven't felt that type of fulfillment in a very long time to jump into it. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't sudden because it was already planned. It wasn't sudden. Now, did I overplan? No. Was it easy? Absolutely not. Was it scary? Sure, but in an exciting way.
Yeah.
I was anxious and I was
Now
excited.
you're probably waking up every morning ready to get to work.
Zelda, I
know
gone
that.
back to my old habits of waking up at 4:30 naturally without even an alarm clock, just hammering it. And I quadrupled down on speaking. I signed up for the Toastmasters. I was doing that twice a week. There's a really great speaking coach, Vin Gang, who's from Australia, and I signed up to his course and I would get up and that's the first thing I would do. So he talks about, yeah, meditation. Yeah.
I follow him on LinkedIn. I follow him. He's really good.
He is phenomenal. I love how he breaks down things. And so from a technical execution side of things, he's what I needed. From a practice, Toastmasters was what I needed. And from a speak from the heart and how to communicate and connect, Les Brown is what I needed. And those three things helped me to propel that, because I knew in my heart of hearts, I was going to speak on stage, whether I was still in my job or not, or started my company. I knew that this was the time, around this time, I was going to be on a stage somewhere, no matter what. And that, in that situation, or I don't want to call it situation, but that particular set of circumstances allowed me to just go all in. And
that's what you had to do. You have to go all in. So when you're starting, I mean, I've started many different businesses, and so I can so relate to this stuff. When you're starting and you join the Toastmasters and you join the this, and you might join the NSA, the Speakers Association, and the this and the that, you take this course and that course. There's tons of shiny objects out there. Pick me, and you called those shiny objects poison. And I agree with you, because I used to buy every single shiny object that came away. And then I finally realized, whoa, hold on. So how do you tell the difference between a true opportunity and a distraction?
okay, this is awesome. This is my wheelhouse. And focus is one of the things that I think a lot of us like to believe that we have, or think it's more complicated than it really is. And this is where most people fall apart, not because they don't know what to do. All right. It's because they're trying to do everything at once.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so focus isn't about doing more. It's about doing more of what matters the most for you in that moment. Mm-hmm. And so You have to do some analysis, and you don't sit in analysis for long because we don't want to get into analysis
Right. I remember you
paralysis.
talking about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you take an honest, hard look at what's going on in your life. You ask yourself some tough questions that may feel uncomfortable. But here's how profound this is. Okay. It doesn't have to be some sort of productivity app or like a survey that you have to do or anything. You literally need
It'll be a legal pad.
and it doesn't even need to be a pad. It could be a napkin if you want it to start. It could be a napkin. It could be a wall. It could be, don't go and graffiti, but could be anything. And just write. Like, it doesn't even have to be profound. You're not diarizing. You're not journaling. You're not doing anything crazy. I'll tell you, Zelda, and this is a little embarrassing, but I remember the first time that I took pen to paper, and it was about 3 pages of pure frustration, and every expletive word that I could think of, every curse word and variations of it that I could think of. That's how frustrated I was. And after the 3rd page of everything just being out of my chest, my heart, and my mind, I said, okay, now what? Literally, I just wrote that. Now what? And then I started having a conversation with myself, but not like this, something that I could see. And the beautiful thing that happens when you start to get your thoughts out of your mind, whether that's through, again, a pen and paper is the easiest, pencil, if you want, some mud, whatever, is you get rid of all the noise in your head.
Yes.
You get rid of all the noise in your head.
Brain dump.
That's exactly right. And everything, and you start to focus on certain, what it is. So this is part of the analysis. Okay. You asked me about focus, but you can't start to focus without analyzing first. And then you start looking for some questions. Why does this matter so much? If something bothers you so much, why does it matter so much to you? And what is it doing to your, you can say health, relationships, your finances, whatever it's affecting. You could even say, how is it affecting all of these areas in my life? And very quickly, you'll realize that they did study about this. 85% of the worries that we have are made up in our mind. When they're still in your mind, they're made up. They're not real. I honestly think it's something like 97, but let's go with the experts on this and say 87. Cornell, there's a bunch of experts. They said 85. But anyway, no matter what, it's a significant amount of the worries that are in our mind are not even that real. And when you start to see it, sorry, yeah.
My daughter's mother-in-law has a saying that at first when she started saying it, I was like, but she's so accurate. It's things work out. The things that we're worrying about and all that we're worrying for nothing because those things they're all going to work out. They're all going to fall into place.
Absolutely. And then the other thing, not to make it morbid, but like, what's the mortality rate? 100%. Like for all of us. So when you start to think about like, oh, well, we're all going to pass away one day. That's part of our life. It's part of it. Is this something worth living a hell on earth for? Is this something that I can control, that it's worth living in this state for?
Yeah,
and
I agree. But I think a lot of people stay too long in the analyze and think, what if this and what if that? Whereas I'm the kind of person who says, do some analyzing, but then pull the freaking trigger. Do it. You don't know until you get in it. And if it's something you really love, you'll figure it out along the way.
100%. I'm still like, I'm just taking off on the plane. I'm bolting on the wings right now. I'm not, there's barely any wheels on. There's barely any bearings. There's no air conditioning in the plane. We're still bolting on. And I think the rest of and I'm okay with that. And when you get to that place, you're like, this is pretty exciting and it's amazing. And so once you've analyzed and you said, and you see the truth, you don't think about it. Mel Robbins has a great one, her 5-second rule. And she talks about how if you know something in your gut needs to change, don't wait too long because then your emotions or your logical brain is going to come up with all kinds of reasons why you shouldn't and how and when and how and all that noise.
Yes.
Once you see the truth, now it's time to ask, what can derail me from fixing this or achieving this? Or if I only had 1 hour today, what would matter the most? And then you get rid of that, all the things that are noisy.
Yeah.
And you look for things that are a signal. So there's signal versus noise. And signal is what builds momentum. Is this something that's going to help me move forward, or is this going to keep me stuck, or is it going to put me back? And yeah, once we realize that, the focus is really just getting rid of all of those shiny objects. Now, you asked, how do you get out of that? Well, it's very simple. There's three things. One, you clarify the target. You be very specific about the target. This isn't about SMART or ACE or any of those things. This is more about, I want to accomplish this, and this is why I want to accomplish it. When you tie an emotion to that, or you tie some sort of, when you tie an emotion to it, let's say I want to be financially free. Okay, but why? So that my family we don't have to be stressed. Okay, now why? So that we can spend more time and care for each other. And then you get a little bit deeper and deeper. That fourth or fifth answer, when you can't ask why anymore, that's the thing that matters the most. And so now you build your target based on what matters the most. It's not the first, it's once you've come to the conclusion of why something is so important to you. If it's not, and you just are going in circles, then you will know very quickly. You'll know very quickly why.
So tell us a little bit about this book. I know you wrote a book. Tell me a little bit about the book.
Absolutely. Yeah. Small moves and big momentum.
I'm sure you have it handy there. Do you have it handy? You can show
the book. That's right. Yeah, here it is. It's right on my desk. And and it's great because I have it all bookmarked and I have some highlighted sections. And these were the tools that help me, like I was mentioning earlier, navigate everyday lives. There's 6 sections. So there's one about the emotional regulation we talked about earlier, how to simplify decisions, because decision fatigue, when we're zonked by 2 p.m., let's say, most times it's because of what's called decision fatigue. We've made way too many decisions. It's in the tens of thousands of decisions by noon is what people make. Like the minute you wake up, should I hit snooze? Should I not? Should I get out of my bed? Should I not? Should I make a coffee or buy it on the way? And all these little things. What should I wear? What should I this? What should I start with? All those little things, they just chip away at your energy completely. And that impacts a lot of the rest of your day. It impacts how you make decisions, how well you say no and stand your ground, how quickly you react to things, how quickly you potentially alienate certain relationships, whether you snap back and all.
So how can they get this book?
Oh yeah, the book is on Amazon right now.
Small moves, big momentum.
Big momentum. Yeah, it's clarity, energy, and focus through small strategic shifts.
So let me ask you, Sadok, if you could challenge our listeners today to make one small move this week to build the momentum in their lives, what would that one challenge be?
If there's one thing that they take away from today, it's this. You don't need to change everything at once to change your life. Start small, be consistent, and remember that it's the small moves that you make in your life that build all the momentum, and then that momentum will do the rest. And it's not as complicated as you think. Just get it out of your head. And things are, 85% of the worries are in our head, aren't real. So
I'm going to remember that one too. So if our audience would like to get in touch with you, they want to bring you on as a speaker, they want more information on the book, whatever it might be, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, they can go to my website, www.sadokbenkhelifa.com. I hope that's in the show notes.
It will be. It will.
Yeah, most directly would be on Instagram. Would be a wonderful place, or LinkedIn would be excellent to connect. You can find me on Instagram at the S.A.D.O.K System, THESADOK System. That's where I put out some content, just a bunch of reflections and some thoughts and highlighting certain things. But that's the best way. Those 2 ways, LinkedIn, Instagram is great, or my website. And then I have ways to connect that way.
Well, I have one more question that I ask all my guests because we are called Success Through Connections. So I like to ask you the signature question, which is, if you had an opportunity presented to yourself because of a connection, I'm not getting this right. I don't know why I got thrown off because I ask this every single week. So would you share a story with us of how an opportunity presented itself to you because of a connection that you had, or how you were able to open a door of opportunity for someone else because of a connection you had?
Yeah, it's wonderful. There's quite a few now that I can think back to, if I can speak about both. One where I was offered an opportunity because of it, and then one where I was able to make a connection for an individual. Excuse me.
Love
Well,
to.
the first one was joining Toastmasters, and that changed everything for me, because it wasn't about like public speaking. It was about the community, the feedback, encouragement, accountability. And I'd met a few people that opened up doors for me across different organizations. And so just being a part of that organization allowed me to go and work for this one company doing public speaking 101. Totally different from what I do, but because I'd gotten the skills on how to communicate effectively, I was asked to do a 6-week course on that, which was wonderful. And through that, I kept in touch with their events coordinator, and hopefully something materializes from that. But in any event, making the connections in that classroom and with those 10 senior leaders was wonderful. And so that's one where I find future connections is going to come up, which is wonderful.
The organization that you were in. Yeah.
The organization that I'm in, that's right. And where I opened up a connection for someone else it was a simple one, but was it profound? So there was one individual, and I won't name names or anything, and maybe I will not get into too many details, but this person unfortunately was not happy with the way their lives were going, and they were going to end it, let's say. I'm sorry to bring up this. However, when we just happened to be talking, he reached out after seeing one of my early videos. It was grainy and garbly, but the message really resonated with him. And when he reached out, he said, "Thank you so much." And I put him in touch with an individual in his industry. And that's been about 2 years now. And I still get some notes now of thanks, because he was like, that was yeah, I love it. And it's one of the main reasons I want to continue doing what I wanted to do. It's a nice validation. And I don't say that to pat my own back or to gloat or anything like that, but I think it's one.
You never know how you are going to touch someone's life. You just don't know.
Exactly. And everybody listening, you have a message. You have a message that somebody out there needs to hear. Don't silence your message. Please talk, connect, control the things that are within your control, manage the things that are out of your control, and then just live your life the way that you need to live it.
Yeah.
Because I promise you, the universe will show you miracles, what look like miracles, but they've been there the whole time. It's just they will start to appear for you. A spotlight will start to come up. Will light those opportunities for you.
Great messages, S.A.D.O.K. Thank you so much for this tips, inspiration. I know a few people. I'm going to make sure get this podcast when it goes live, because they need to hear it. It's been wonderful. And thank you for joining me today. Thank you to our audience for joining us today. And I want to remind our listeners, be sure you subscribe to this channel on YouTube. Pass it along, make comments. I love to hear your comments, and I do respond to them. So just remember that success, it does not happen in isolation. It happens because of the connections that we have. Today, connections are your currency, and connections are the new power move. So until next week, I'm Zelda with Success Through Connections. I'll see you next week. Bye now.